Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. And in this week's local news, 2 local businessmen were arrested for tax evasion. Find out who they are. And trouble at the local Enbridge pipeline job site. Learn what it is.
Stay tuned and learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. An arson complaint was made at an Oxford Enbridge pipeline site. Sheriff's deputies found that someone set fire to a porta-john on the job site. The investigation continues and extra patrols at Enbridge's expense are assigned to watch over the location.
Oakland County Sheriff deputies were called to the Lake Villa Mobile Home Park on a complaint that an unknown individual was cutting air conditioning lines leading to the homes. The person involved was gone when officers arrived, so the investigation continues.
Oxford Village officers were called to the Pollyant Trail Bridge on a complaint that juveniles were throwing rocks at cars on M24. Officers believe that they know who the juveniles that were throwing rocks are, and the investigation will continue. Someone is in trouble.
Officers went to Breezewood Road on a report of larceny. The homeowner reported that after having a friend over to his home, he noticed that his meds were gone. The homeowner will press charges and the investigation continues.
2 local businessmen connected with Odyssey Industries, a scrap metal business in Orion Township, Randall Bellstreet, 57, formerly of Oxford, and Paul Mickelson of Leonard, could be facing prison terms for failure to report more than $2 million in sales from their metal scrap business. Bellstreet pleaded guilty in U.S. District Court to 1 count each of conspiring and filing false tax returns to the IRS. The charges could carry a prison term of 3 to 5 years and $500,000 in fines. Mickelson has been cooperating with IRS officials, but no plea has been offered.
It seems Oxford Village residents will not be given the opportunity to decide whether they want to continue paying for the local dispatch, budgeted at over $300,000 a year, or contract with Oakland County Sheriff's Office for nearly $30,000 per year. 3 council members voted for the public not to have a say in the matter, while 2 council members voted to give their constituents a voice on the November ballot. Meanwhile, the village for the 3rd year in a row has a balanced budget without raising taxes. Looking for ways to cut expenses and balance the budget next year, a suggestion was made to eliminate local dispatch and have a contract with Oakland County for this move. According to some council members, that could relieve some of the village financial concerns for the future. Last year, both Oxford Township and Orion Township switched to Oakland County Dispatch.
Oxford Woods residents want the township to pass an ordinance that would cite homeowners who refuse to maintain their homes and property. At issue, according to the Oxford Woods residents, is a home located at the entrance to the subdivision. They say that the lawn needs to be cut, weeds are rampant, and the house needs repairs, and critters are starting to set up house in the area. When residents tried to file a complaint, they discovered that the village of Oxford has an ordinance to cover the issue. However, the township does not. The Township Board will discuss the possibilities of creating a weed grass ordinance at its Wednesday, July 9th, 7 p.m. meeting. This will be the 4th time since 1998 that the township officials have considered creating such an ordinance.
The popular concert series in the parks have returned to Oxford Village Centennial Park. The concerts will be held every Thursday through August 28th from 7 to 9 p.m. The music is free to the public and entertainment is paid for by the Downtown Development Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, and the generosity of local businesses and residences. This year's concert series will include an open mic talent night from 6 to 6:45. To schedule a performance time, call Matthew Long at the Oxford School of Music, 248-572-4881. 248-572-4881.
Terry, have you ever attended any of the concerts in the park?
I have, and when I lived in the village, I was able to listen to them from my own backyard, but I haven't gone this year.
I'll tell you, for an evening that might be a nice warm evening, you take your drinks down there if you want, refreshments. You can enjoy the entertainment that they have, you know, from the gazebo. It's really enjoyable. Don't forget to bring your lawn chairs, though.
Oh yeah, and sometimes it's a pretty crowded little park down there. I like the idea of the open mic night.
Yeah.
Or open mic event, right? That's
right. The
cool.
open mic event allows people to talk about different events within the community, such as the Lone Ranger Parade and those kind of things. So
right.
it's kind of a neat approach.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. What I'm not happy about, what I don't like this week, I don't know if you have to have a what Terry doesn't like this week, but I'm disappointed in the village council vote not to give the residents the opportunity to let them know what they want. And so I would encourage village residents, if you're not happy with that decision, go to their meetings. Sorry, Elgin, I know that makes for a full room that night, but go to the meetings and voice your concerns. That's all I can say.
Actually, we invite full rooms. The more people, the better, I think, that get involved in you know, village and township politics. Good idea.
I agree.
Okay.
Like I said, get down there. And this is Oxford News This Week, not a political rally. And if you'd like to learn more about these stories and others, stop by your local stores and pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper.
And coming up next on OCTV, more news. Oxford Local Sports with Andy Curtis, Oxford School News with John Oetjens, and join Dave Kenny with his Auto Talk and Science in the News program.
This is Oxford News This Week. I'm Terry Stiles.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always to be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, 2 U.S. senators said they want to raise the federal gasoline and diesel tax by 12 cents a gallon to prevent a fund that pays for about half the country's transportation projects from running out of money in August. U.S. Senator Bob Corker and Senator Chris Murphy called for raising the tax 6 cents a year for 2 years and linking future fuel tax increases to inflation. The gasoline tax is now 18.4 cents per gallon, and the diesel tax is 24.4 cents per gallon. The tax has not been increased since 1993, and hiking taxes is politically unpopular ahead of midterm elections in November. The senators proposed other tax cuts to offset the fuel tax hike, but made no specific recommendations. Another approach favored by some lawmakers to replenish the Federal Highway Trust Fund is to give U.S. multinational corporations a tax break on bringing foreign profits into the country. President Barack Obama opposes this idea of corporate offshore profit tax repatriation holiday, the White House said. The president does not support and has never supported a voluntary repatriation holiday because it would give large tax breaks to a very small number of companies that have most aggressively shifted profits and in many cases jobs overseas, White House spokesman Jim Carney said. Corporations lobbying Congress for repatriation holiday suffered a setback recently with the defeat of House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, which undercut Republican support for controversial proposals. Multinationals have sought for years to convince Congress to endorse the tax holiday, which would let them bring profits back, that is to say foreign profits back home, at less than 35% top corporate income tax rate. This was attempted before in 2004 under former President George W. Bush, a Republican. This time around, the holiday proposal is expected to resemble the 2004 version, a 12-month, 85% deduction for dividends paid by overseas units to U.S. parent corporations. Congress's nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation estimated the structure would generate $20 billion in federal revenue as a burst of offshore profits flowed back into the economy. But after the holiday ended, the committee said corporations would hold more foreign income offshore, expecting another holiday later on. The committee estimated the long-term cost to taxpayers would be about $95 billion over 10 years. And on the electric car front, Tesla Motors will begin Model X prototype production this fall, and vehicle production for reservation holders is set for as early as 2015. In an email to reservation holders June 16th, Tesla said the crossover will come standard with Falcon wing doors and all-wheel drive. Third-row seating will be optional. Pricing for the base model or the third-row option was not available, however. Tesla unveiled its third vehicle in February of 2012 and planned to begin deliveries in 2014. Tesla plans to produce about 10,000 to 15,000 crossovers per year. Customers can reserve a Model X on the company's website with deposits starting at $5,000. And in China, Volvo, with help from its Chinese owner Zhejiang Geely Holding Corporation, plans to start exporting Chinese-made cars to the United States and Russia as early as next year, said a Volvo executive who requested anonymity because he is not authorized to speak with the media. The executive said the automaker would start exporting a long-wheel-based version of the S60 called the S60L to the United States and the XC90 SUV to Russia as early as the end of next year. Volvo will eventually export about 10,000 S60Ls and a few thousand XC90s each year, the executive said. And at General Motors, the story keeps rolling on. General Motors says it is recalling another 3.4 million cars in North America because bumpy terrain could move the ignition switch out of the run position if the driver's keychain is too heavy, the same basic problem that it began its recall crisis earlier this year. GM says Ray DiGiorgio, the engineer who was fired for his role in the Chevrolet Cobalt recall, also approved the ignition switch used in the vehicles covered by the latest recall. The new ignition recall covers the Chevrolet Impala from 2006 to 2014 model years, as well as some Buick, Cadillac, and Chevrolet vehicles from 2000 to 2011. Now, the Impala is the only vehicle that remains in production, say old version, though only the limited model sold to car rental companies is affected and not the redesigned version of the car. Instead of replacing the ignition switches, as it was doing in the Chevrolet Cobalts and Saturn Ions, GM said it would give owners either new keys or a small plastic insert for their keys. That means this recall is likely to be significantly less costly for GM and less time-consuming for the dealers. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back. This is OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford and Addison Townships with the best in local programming. On Charter Channel 191, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, and our website, OCCTV.org. OCTV, we provide local programming that brings you closer to home.
I'm John Oetjens, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcat School Update. Our auto tech crew is back from Dearborn and the AAA Ford National Finals. Some bad luck put them in 24th place. Teacher Dan Balsley says it was an exciting experience we will remember for the rest of our lives. Part of the problem was a fuse that was dropped down a left front fender. Time was lost digging it out. Despite that, Alan Labarge and Mike Smith each came out of it with a $10,000 scholarship offer from Ohio Technical College in Cleveland. These boys have nothing to be ashamed of this year, considering their high rankings at the AAA Ford States and Mites competitions earlier. There were other substantial scholarships won this year as well. Now that the dust has settled from all the graduations, we asked for some reflections on happenings over the past school year. Aletha Van Luthen is principal of Oxford Bridges, our alternative high school. First, she explains a bit about Oxford Bridges.
Oxford Bridges came into being as an alternative option for students to receive their high school diploma. There's students that go to the high school, they get lost amongst the 1,700 or so other students in there. They could have a multitude of issues that arise because they get lost. They could have learning disabilities, they could have family issues, they could have their own illnesses that prevent them from being successful in that type of situation. They could just not be comfortable in that large of a venue. So they get behind in credits and they're not on track for graduation, and they are recommended for the Oxford Bridges program. We only take students from 10th to 12th grade. So they are recommended after their 9th grade year, or somewhere, halfway through their 9th grade year, we are already looking at them for the Bridges program. And one of the things that makes us unique is that we have small classroom sizes. Our largest classroom is about, say, 23 to 25 students, where in the high school their classes are 35, 36 in a classroom. So most of our classes probably have about 15 students.
Okay.
Where the teachers are able to give them more individualized attention so that they are successful. We also don't require as many credits for graduation. So say the high school requires 28 credits for graduation, we require 21. They still have to meet all of Michigan standards as far as credits, math, science, social studies, English, but they are reduced in the number of electives they need.
Aletha goes on to describe her experience during her first year here, culminated with her 19 graduates presenting her with flowers after their ceremony.
I was assigned to Bridges in the fall, in August, and there was nothing up and running. Even though the program was here last year, the students had not been enrolled yet. I had several staff that had taken assignments in other districts. So we had to hire teachers, we had to interview students, we had to schedule students. So it was chaotic, to say the least. When the fall came and all the students come back to school, they come back to 3 new teaching staff, myself, Miss Aldrich, my secretary, who they have no idea who we are. And I tend to be, what's a good way to say it? I don't want to say I'm a disciplinarian because I'm not really strict. I'm pretty flexible, but there are rules that you follow. And they were somewhat taken aback by the structure that we were trying to put in place. So it was a little chaotic at the beginning of the year. One of my young men who graduated last night was adamant that he was not going to do what was needed. And I was on the phone to his parents regularly. And I think that he learned a little more about his ability to be flexible and his ability to do what needed to be done. I think in the long run he benefited from it, and he knows that. And last night what I saw from the kids is their appreciation for what our staff, myself, brought in. Their appreciation was evident in their speeches. Their appreciation was evident by their presentation of flowers to me, which was something that has never happened to me in all the years I've worked with kids. And I was so taken aback by that situation that it showed me that actually all the struggles that we had during the year came to this one moment when they were like, yes, we know why you did it. This is where you wanted us to be. So.
Aletha Van Luthen, principal of Oxford Bridges High School. Dave Kenny is next with Science in the News, followed by Andy with Sports. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
This is OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford and Addison Townships with the best in local programming. On Charter Channel 191, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, and our website, occtv.org. OCTV. We provide local programming that brings you closer to home.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
On out for Friday night fish at the Oxford American Legion Hall. It's delicious.
We love the Legion. They have great fish and good family fun. American Legion fish fry. It's awesome. And the drinks are good. The food is good. The service is awesome.
I'm Andy Curtis, and this is your Oxford Sports Update. Now, just because it's summer doesn't mean Oxford athletes should let their skills get rusty. For everything from basketball to cheerleading to even hockey, the school's athletic department is partnering with Oxford Township Parks and Rec for non-mandatory events for grades 7 through 12 to help these athletes sharpen their skills. For more information, you can contact the Parks and Rec at oxparkrec.org or give them a call at 248-628-1720. Or you can contact the Oxford Schools Athletic Department by emailing Athletic Director Mike Watson at mike.watson@oxfordschools.org, or give them a call at 248-969-5110. Now, another group of young athletes who look like they're finally getting their act together are our own beloved Detroit Tigers, who swept their first series since the infamous Zubaz weekend way back in May. Coming off a losing series against the Royals, the Cardiac Cats dropped from their first-place position in the AL Central for the first time since last July. Now, that was until they marched into the Mistake by the Lake to take on the Cleveland Indians this weekend, winning 6-4 on Friday, 5-4 on Saturday, and a 10-4 routing on Sunday, behind the pitching of Max Scherzer, who gave up 6 hits, 1 run, and had 8 strikeouts, moving him to a record of 9-3 and dropping his ERA to 3.71. Now, offensively, Miguel Cabrera contributed with a home run, his 13th of the season, and there were some doubles from Nick Castellanos, Alex Avila, Ian Kinsler, and J.D. Martinez, moving the Tigers back into first place with a 2.5-game lead on Kansas City. Now, if I can speak as a Tigers fan and not a journalist for a second, I think I have a few thoughts that are shared by most fans of this team. It's about time, guys. You've got the best hitter on the planet. You have what should be the most dangerous starting pitching lineup in all of baseball. And you used to have Justin Verlander. Now, being in first place should never be a question here. Now, I get it. I understand that you have a rookie manager and you did lose some offense, but you're in the AL Central, which is a consistent garbage pile. And like a month ago, you had such a big first place lead that you were guaranteed a playoff spot for like the next 2 seasons. A 2.5-point lead is unacceptable. I spend too much time and money watching you guys that put up with this garbage up and down all the way to October. This is all I got. Please don't make me start covering soccer. The U.S. Men's World Cup soccer team tied an exciting game on Sunday against favored Portugal. And even though they didn't exactly win, we are still in good shape to move on to the next round of 16 with a win or a tie with co-group leader Germany on Thursday. Now, I'm Andy Curtis. Remember, you can catch all our broadcasts of your favorite Oxford High School and now Park and Rec League games weekends between 1 and 6 right here on OCTV, or check us out online under the program section of OCCTV.org. And remember, this is your community station, so if you have a sports idea, shoot us an email at andrewcurtis23@gmail.com and put OCTV Sports in the subject line. That was all the sports news you need to know. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from the publication New Scientist. I say this story because there's only one story this time, and it's pretty important. Ed Damiano's son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2000. He was 11 months old. Damiano, a biomedical engineer, decided to create a device that would help his child and millions of others better manage their disease. He set a goal of having it ready by the time his son went to college. Results from the latest clinical trials of his smartphone-linked artificial pancreas suggest he might just make that deadline. Type 1 diabetes occurs when beta islet cells in the pancreas die off. These cells sense levels of blood sugar, aka glucose, in the blood and secrete the necessary amount of insulin to keep those levels normal. Insulin also enables glucose to enter our body cells where it is used as a source of energy. That means an imbalance in blood sugar not only starves blood vessels and organs of energy, but also keeps the blood saturated with glucose, which can cause tissue damage and sometimes lead to coma or even death. The disease usually occurs early in life and can be managed through careful monitoring of blood insulin levels, controlling what food is eaten and when, modifying physical activity, and the use of pumps or injections to deliver insulin and the glucose-raising hormone glucagon to keep blood sugar levels within a normal range. But controlling the disease is all-consuming, lurking in the back of every waking decision. Damiano, who works at the University of Boston, said a bionic pancreas his team has developed with colleagues at the Massachusetts General Hospital offers hope of a normal life to people with type 1 diabetes. The device takes over the task of monitoring and regulating sugar levels in the blood. Every 5 minutes, a signal is sent wirelessly from a glucose monitor under the user's skin to an iPhone app giving their blood sugar status. The app calculates the amount of insulin or glucagon needed to balance the blood sugar, sending a signal to pumps carried by the user to administer the required dose via a catheter. Before eating, people can input data about the type and size of their meal. The artificial pancreas performed well in hospital-based clinical trials in 2010, but the important test is whether it works well in the real-world environment. In the latest study, 20 adults wearing the device were put up in a hotel for 5 days, but were otherwise free to do as they choose, including eat in restaurants and go to the gym. 32 young people aged 12 to 20 were also monitored for 5 days at a summer camp for kids with diabetes. For both groups, the results with the bionic pancreas were compared with 5 days of the participants using their usual method of controlling the disease, pricking their finger to monitor glucose levels and using an insulin pump that required them to manually calculate the dosage. The device performed beyond our expectations. It did a wonderful job of controlling their blood sugar, says Damiano. Both the highs and lows of the sugar levels were better controlled than what the participants were able to do managing their own diabetes prior to the trial, he says. That's important because, as many studies have shown, the better you control your glucose, the closer it is to the normal range, the longer you can stave off the long-term health complications of diabetes, he says. The study had a tremendous emotional impact on the participants. They got a glimpse of what life was like without diabetes, and that's pretty profound, he says. In many cases, the participants were reluctant to give the devices back. Anna Florine, who participated in the adult arm of the study and blogged about her experience, said, "I went to Starbucks and ate a banana for breakfast without fear of not enough time having passed between insulin injection and food consumption and wondering whether or not the 20-minute brisk walk back to work would drop my blood sugar in 2 hours." Damiano hopes the series of longer trials starting this month and next year will lay the path for the device to be approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. With any luck, this may come before his son heads off to college in the autumn of 2017. The results of Damiano's study and several other groups working on artificial pancreases were presented today, or last week, at the meeting of the American Diabetes Association in San Francisco. That'll be a lot of great news for a lot of people. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back after this.